So, how does this benefit the American people? How does the Dignity Act benefit the American people?
I mean, lots of ways. I think it benefits the American people more than it benefits the immigrants participating in the program. Taxes, which we already talked about, like obviously it's a big boost in tax revenue, which are then allocated to the bunch of different programs that we need. So there is that. And then there's a provision in there about it contributing to some of it being used to pay off the national debt.
Mm-hmm.
If we can stop racking that the fuck up.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys know how much we're in debt right now, especially with the war going on, but
A lot.
I'm going to do a quick Google search right now. It is,
I think I heard trillions.
it's definitely in the trillions, but current national debt, what do you think?
I have no idea.
This is as of April 2026.
I think the zeros probably wrap around your computer. So I don't know. Well, I'm gonna go with like 10 trillion. Am I being modest?
Wrong. You're so wrong. The price is not right. So, according to the U.S. Treasury fiscal data, we are currently $39 trillion in debt.
And they want to talk about my credit.
Yeah. $39 trillion.
They want to talk about anybody else's credit. America.
Yeah. $39 trillion. Imagine that. Oh, Lord.
And so the Dignity Act participants in the program, I guess, part of their wages are going to be garnished, or they're levied, right? The word they're using is that it's being levied by, what was it, 1%?
1% of their salary.
1% of their
paycheck,
earnings
yeah,
is being levied. And so the levied wages, those are being allocated to the debt specifically, or
it would allocate to the debt and also to fund the actual Dignity Act.
okay.
So if you are worried about, well, I don't want my taxpayer money to go towards the Dignity Act. Well, you don't have to, because guess what? That 1% is going to be used towards funding the act and also to put a little hole in that $39 trillion debt.
Yeah. I mean, with any immigration benefits, like the vast majority of them, they have filing fees. And so I'm assuming there would be a filing fee for this. Those filing fees pay for the program. So USCIS, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, which is the main agency that handles like applications for immigration benefits, they are applicant funded. I think like 95% or something like that. There's like a little bit that's funded through whatever is allocated to DHS in terms of like taxes or whatever. But I want to say it's like 5 or 6%. Most of it is applicant funded. And this, I would assume, is also going to be applicant funded.
That is a good question. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back to the bill.
I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be. Like everything else requires an application fee. I'm pretty sure that this would too. And what that application fee would be, I guess, is up for discussion. But if it's a 7-year benefit, I doubt it's going to be anything less than like probably 1,000, 1,500, something like that.
There we go. In general, the secretary may require an alien applying under this section to pay a reasonable fee. Reasonable? What is reasonable? With the cost of processing the application, but does not exceed $1,140.
Which is what the application for residency is, or close to, or was, because it's $1,400 now. But even DACA is a 2-year program, 2-year application, and it's $605 every 2 years. Anyway,
there's fees. There will be fees. Let's just put it like that. Okay. Yeah. So if you ever want to entertain yourself, go read a bill.
If you struggle from insomnia,
go read a bill.
Highly recommend.
If you're stressed out, go read a bill.
Having trouble falling asleep, pull up HR Bill 49 whatever. 4393. Snooze alert. And listen, like I was saying off the record, I don't want to shit on it because I appreciate that it's some effort in the right direction, right? Like I appreciate that they're putting an effort to try to come up with a bipartisan bill to get as many people on the same page about this to try to move forward, offer some kind of a solution to this immigration problem. I understand that. I respect that. I get it. Thank you. At the same time, like there's just still a lot there that doesn't really address. A lot of things remain unaddressed, and the benefits are very lopsided. Like obviously there's some benefits for the immigrant or the person without documented status, but the benefits are very much sided towards the government.
I would even go as far as saying that it's favoring an anti-immigration approach rather than a pro-immigration approach.
What do you mean by that?
So
Talk to me about that.
So basically it's not, I hate using the word anti, but it is. It's like it's anti-American dream, if you will, because you can't achieve it. You can't achieve it through the Dignity Act.
Right. I mean, it locks you into this like nothing status.
Yeah.
More or less, because yeah, you can work here and you can pay taxes here, but that's it. We're willing to take advantage of your labor, but we're not willing to give you really anything. Like you still have no security in staying here. It doesn't really give you any assurance of being able to remain in the United States, even if you do everything right. And I understand that that's also administration based, but there's a lot of benefits even now that exist that give people this kind of like deferred status where they're allowed to be here, they have work authorization, they have some limited benefits, not lawful residence, not resident status, not citizenship, but just kind of like this weird in limbo in between sort of space. And it's deferred action because it promises that we are not going to deport you, right? So you have the security, the feeling of safe, that you're safe. In comes an administration like this, and all that goes out the fucking window.
Yeah.
And there are people who are in U visa status, for example, or VAWA status, or have applied for these statuses that are these limbo, sort of not residency, not citizenship status, but deferred status that allows them to be here with lawful status in the sense that it is a visa category or a deferred status. And even those people are being put into proceedings, and it's not because they've done anything new. It's just this administration has taken the position that we're not going to honor that deferred status any longer. So I just feel like it's extremely unfair and even dangerous in that sense, because if, what security does anybody have then? Like, why should I trust you? If I know that you do stupid shit like this, why would I trust you and agree into this program?
Well, my counter to that would be this. If we don't have this, we have nothing. Mm-hmm. And so that trust is still going to be there, or lack of trust, right?
Yeah.
So now it's, if we don't have this program, we don't have the trust with or without the program, right? Mm-hmm. But if we don't have the program, we're just subject to being deported at any given time. If we have the program, at least we have some type of protection for people who are undocumented. So that's the way I try to look at it.
Yeah, but I feel like I would want some added assurances that this cannot be abused at the whim of whatever clown show administration that happens to come in, whether it's red, blue, I don't care, whoever it is, but it cannot be at the whim of one particular individual or one administration to jeopardize people's safety to be here to that extreme. Like I feel like I'd want something more there.
Yeah, so I mean, there's definitely, there's questions, and I'm sure people have questions. Again, this is something that's kind of growing momentum right now because of, in response to everything that has been going on. I have to give credit to Salazar because I literally have not seen any other GOP go as hard as she has for immigration. And again, she's GOP. And speaking of GOP, I just want to mention this because I think it's imperative to understand that it really isn't a political issue per se until recently. It didn't become a very dramatic anti-immigration stance for the GOP until recently.
Immigration, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do I mean by that? So in the 1980s, an amnesty program, an amnesty act, the Reagan Act.
Yeah, I don't remember the title of it, but yeah, the amnesty
The
that everybody
amnestia,
talks about, yeah.
yes. Right. So that was in the 80s. And basically, Kimmy mentioned it earlier, but it was essentially a pathway to residency. And many people were able to adjust because of that, because of the Reagan amnesty. That was in the 80s. Reagan was part of the GOP.
Republican, yeah.
He was a Republican. Then fast forward to 2001. Now, 2001 wasn't necessarily an amnesty path. However, it allowed people to be able to be pardoned for being in the United States unlawfully and working, essentially.
I wouldn't even call it a pardon. It was just, you're referring to the 245I
Yes.
provisions?
Yes.
Yeah, so it wasn't even necessarily a pardon. It was just that if you had a preference category petition or any kind of petition in process and you had entered the U.S. unlawfully, the law typically requires that you leave the country to get your residency. The problem with that is the 1997 laws, IRIRA.
Which president?
Bill Clinton, he's the one who signed off on that. But that law created a bunch of bans to being able to get your residency. And one of them was if you had been in the U.S. unlawfully. And once you leave, you're banned from coming back for 10 years lawfully. So in 2001, there was this 245I extension provision that said, well, if you are a person in this scenario, instead of leaving and then triggering this ban, will allow you to continue the process here in the U.S. without having to leave. You would just pay an extra penalty, $1,000. I don't know if it was $1,000 always.
I think it was $1,000.
So it is $1,000 now, but I don't know if that was the amount.
Fee. Let's just say a fee.
So you pay this extra fine, quote unquote, and then continue with your process. And it offered people a pathway to move forward without having to create all these additional hurdles and backlogs. And yeah, that was during the Bush years.
That was during the Bush years. So Bush was a response to IRA, which came out with Bill Clinton, who was a Democrat. So what am I getting at? I'm getting at is that both parties have done something that has affected the issue of immigration or have done something to help the issue of immigration.
Right. Like it doesn't have to be the polarized conversation that it is currently, but we now have social media, and so that's that.
And we can't forget about Obama, because Obama did, through executive order, provide that pathway for DACA, which really isn't a pathway, it's just being able to stay here.
Right. Again, it was like that Band-Aid solution that was supposed to be like a short-term thing, and it ended up lasting 15 years because we can't get our shit enough together to try to figure out something that makes sense in a more meaningful way.
So if you notice that 1980, that's 40 years ago?
Don't ask me because I won't tell you.
1980.
Don't remind me.
That's 40 years ago, you guys. 40 years ago was when the actual an amnesty was in place. And since then, there's no solution to this immigration quote unquote problem. There's just been responses to other hurdles. So Reagan was positive, Bill Clinton was negative, George Bush GOP was in response to that negativity. Obama had DACA, which again is a band-aid solution. And now fast forward to 2026 and we have Salazar, who is a GOP, with Escobar, who is a Democrat, trying to find a solution.
But I also want to point out that the last time immigration laws were changed or that there had been any amendments made to them was 1997 through that IRIRA.
Oh, with Bill Clinton.
Yes. And most of the changes...
Bill.
Most of the changes were not great, really not that favorable to immigrants. It created a lot more problems than it solved. But I think at the time, the thing was like, oh, okay, well, we have to make some concessions, so I'll concede on these few things as long as you can agree to these couple of other things. And it was like the best that they could do, which was not great because, again, it created all these other hurdles that we're continuing to have to deal with. And then since then, there's really not been any further meaningful change to anything to address the problem. That change didn't even address the backlogs on priority petitions, by the way. Again, we have separate episodes on this, but there are petition categories that have 20 to 25 year backlogs, and those lines just get longer and longer. All sorts of these other issues that are just going unresolved.
Well, now that you're talking about backlogs, if we look at the Dignity Act, that is actually something that is discussed in one of its sections. What do I mean by this? Excuse me. So it modernizes our legal immigration system and it fixes backlogs. So in another episode, we talk about, actually, we haven't really fully talked about backlogs. We kind of just briefly talked about it. But essentially, just because you petition for a visa, it's not there unless it's immediate, right?
Right, which is a very limited group of people that fall into that.
It's like, limited in scope.
Yeah.
And so what happens to all these other people who apply? Well, they remain waiting until their visa becomes current, until that visa is available. And that wait can go from 10, 15, 20, 25 years. I know people who have been waiting on a visa for 26 years now, which is crazy. And so this Dignity Act, specifically saying it allows someone that has been waiting for a legal visa, either family-based or employment-based, for 10 years or more, which there certainly have been people who are waiting for 10 years or more, to pay a $20,000 premium processing fee to receive that visa. So it would allow people to essentially come up to date. If it's been 10 years or more,
Jump the line
essentially, but at a very, very steep cost. I mean, we're talking about $20,000. I don't know what you're doing with $20,000, but I'd like to do other things with $20,000.
I'd like to have $20,000, first of all.
Exactly. Let's start with the fact that I want $20,000.
Let me just have $20K and then have the stress of figuring out what to do with it.
Right. The stress that comes with having money. Gosh.
But yeah, if you just so happen to find yourself in that situation, I guess, just pay all this money and you can jump the line.
Yeah. So $20,000. It also raises the per country cap set on Immigration Act of 1990 from 7% to 15%. So what does that mean, Kimmy?
The lines should get shorter because I guess they would be able to approve more visas per year, because that's part of the reason right now is the lines are backlogged because of these quotas that are set per country. And then once the number of visas, the quota has been filled for that country for the year, everybody else has to wait till the next year. So I guess if they're expanding the quotas, that should...
Doubling it, really.
Hopefully half that wait time, but maybe, in theory.
So in case you're not following, every country is basically capped to a specific number of visas that are made available to that country. And it currently is at 7%. So it would go up to 15% based on the Dignity Act, which would allow the process to move forward. In addition to that $20,000, if you want to cough up $20,000. So that's two ways in which the process would move forward. The backlog would decrease, if you will.
Do we know where that $20K is going?
It does not say where it's going, but...
I know some pockets looking for it. I'm sure they'll find a place for it.
But there is a provision that I'll talk about in a bit as far as where some of these funds will be going towards.
I don't know. I'm skeptical.
I'm like, there's something there. There's a positive light.
Who's lining their pockets with this? What's going on with this money?
Apparently the Dignity Act would also allow STEM PhD graduates from American universities, including medical students, to be eligible for an O visa. This allows individuals with extraordinary ability or achievement to stay and work in the U.S. if they choose to.
I don't know enough about that because I don't do employment-based. There's like H-1Bs, but I don't know how that overlaps with medical. Yeah. I don't know how that works, so I guess I won't comment on it.
So it's a pathway.
Yeah.
Increases high-skilled employment visa opportunities by only counting the principal applicant and excluding derivatives. Children and spouses from counting towards the annual employment-based visa caps.
Okay.
It does not raise the caps. So that's a benefit, right? Because those other three individuals, if you have your wife and two kids, they wouldn't be included in that
And the count.
15, well, currently 7%, futuristically 15% count cap.
Yeah.
Includes the American Families Unity Act, which authorizes discretion if an undocumented child or spouse of a U.S. citizen is denied a visa or has received a deportation order, affording families relief on a case-by-case basis.
Miss me with it. Every time I hear case by case basis, it's never a fucking case. Like somehow all the cases don't meet the case by case
We
criteria.
have to remain hopeful.
Okay, I'm gonna try.
We have to remain hopeful. It's that or nothing. Includes the Temporary Family Visitation Act, which creates a new 90-day visitor visa that can be used by foreigners to travel to the United States for business, pleasure, or family purposes.
How's that different from ESTA?
I don't know.
I need to talk to Miss Salazar and
Because
Escobar.
the Temporary Family Visitation Act, which creates a 90-day visitor visa, but the current B2 is 180 days.
It sounds like an ESTA program specifically for family members. Okay. So ESTA is a special program with the U.S. and some countries that have agreements that they don't, it's a visa waiver. So people from these countries don't need a specific visa. They just register into this ESTA program and they can come to the U.S. and be here up to 90 days.
So it sounds like it wouldn't be limited to ESTA agreement countries, but it would be beyond that.
Possibly.
Because how many countries are under the ESTA program?
It's a visa waiver program.
I feel like it's just going to be European countries.
It is European countries, yeah.
Yeah, it's 42 countries, so it sounds like that would be beyond the 42 countries.
It's mostly European, by the way. Let me correct myself. There are some countries on there that are not European countries.
Qatar or Qatar. I've heard people say Qatar.
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 Yeah.
Qatar. So, yeah, they would be beyond those countries, I guess. So that's a positive.
But again, how are they doing that? Because if somebody with a spouse or children here in the U.S. went to a U.S. embassy in Mexico and tried to get a B1, B2 visa, on site denied. There's no way they would grant that because they'd be like, oh, no, you have immigrant intent. So we're not going to give you this visa because we know you're going to go and stay. You're not going to visit. So are they saying they would make an exception to the immigrant intent sort of thing on this program? Like, I don't know.
Unless it's like by family, if they mean something like grandparents or
further out, people that wouldn't qualify for a petition.
Right, or like aunts or uncles, because you can't petition for an aunt or uncle.
Right, maybe.
You can't petition for a grandparent.
Yeah.
Or a grandchild.
Yeah. I just don't see them granting this for Mexicans in particular. I don't know.
Ay, mi gente, I'm sorry. It doesn't say that in the language, by the way.
It doesn't say that in the language, and I'm sure, and like I'm not saying that it's discriminatory in the language, but in practice, there are some very discriminatory ways in which this is applied, like that already exists. So I just don't see how this would be different. But anyway, in theory,
let's remain hopeful, y'all.
In theory, this is what it's going to do.
It says, ensures that children legally present in the United States do not age out of receiving certain visas due to USCIS processing delays.
Good.
That's another good one. Yeah. Requires students working in the United States as part of the Optimal Practical Training, the OPT program, to pay FICA, Social Security, and Medicare taxes. Again, going into governmental funds.
Don't you feel lucky?
Yeah. I'm so lucky.
You get to pay FICA.
You get to pay FICA, y'all. Modernizes student visas by changing the F visa to be dual intent. Creates an immigration agency coordinator position to oversee and streamline immigrant functions at USCIS, in State Department, and Department of Labor. And surge resources to USCIS operations, the Bureau of Consular Affairs and Visa Service at the State Department, and the Office of Foreign Labor Certification at DOL to reduce delays and improve visa processing. So it's trying to get rid of that backlog, which we all know currently exists. So those are unleashing the American prosperity and competitiveness language in the bill. And then it also emphasizes on opportunity for the American worker. So what does that mean? It means dignity for American workers. How? It creates a new American worker fund using restitution payments, again, those $7,000 from the Dignity Program and the Dignity Status. This fund will provide a workforce training, upskilling, and education for unemployed American workers. So it would be to the benefit of unemployed American workers. For every participant in the Dignity Program, their restitution payments will help train or retain at least one American worker. In total, this will be at least $70 billion investment in the U.S. workforce. The American Worker Fund provides grants for workforce education initiatives and apprenticeships to help U.S. citizens looking for work or transitioning to different careers, and it would ensure the Americans can secure employment in in-demand careers. So this is how the Bid Dignity Act would benefit the American workers. Why? Because again, you're paying $7,000 of restitution. It would come back to help the American workers.
So they're not taking your jobs.
Exactly.
They're training you to do better.
No taxpayer funds will be used to pay for the Dignity Act. So if you're worried that your taxpayer money, that one that goes into that big giant pot, will be used to fund this program, it's not happening. How is it not happening? Well, this is how it's not happening. The border infrastructure, improved ports of entry infrastructure, new humanitarian campuses, increased personnel, and all other associated costs in the bills are paid by the Immigration Infrastructure Levy. What is the levy? According to the language of this bill, a 1% levy will be deducted from the paychecks of individuals given work authorization under the Dignity Program. So, what does that mean? It means that beyond the $7,000 of restitution they have to pay, a 1% of their paycheck will go towards this program. These levies will be deposited into an immigration infrastructure fund to be used to carry out the provisions of this act, of the Dignity Act, and then pay down the U.S. national debt by at least $50 billion, which is really nothing when you compare $39 trillion. But again, they're putting into the fund.
They're not the ones that got you that $39 trillion.
Right.
So, I mean, the fact that they're helping pay it down anyway.
Right. Which they're helping paying it down, but they can't seek any type of means-based federal programs, benefits. And again, they fund the American Worker Fund, which I just spoke about, for the development of American workers, again, through the restitution and the 1% levy.
So, I mean, it seems like the program is basically like self-funded through people who are participating in the program. So one way or another, it's not really taking anything extra out of whatever we already pay in taxes.
Right. So nothing's being appropriated to this Dignity Act should it pass from this giant pot of money that we all contribute.